What's going on, YouTube? So just last year, Genesis pulled the cover off of their flagship SUV, filled with style, sportiness, and luxury. And even though that wasn't that long ago, Genesis is already making changes to this GV80 Coupe, including a new black edition, which is what we have with us today. So has Genesis perfected the Coupe luxury SUV? Let's go ahead and find out.
Now let's start out under the hood for a quick spec dump. All models of the GV80 Coupe come with a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6, but the top two models, including what we have today, add a E-supercharged mild hybrid system. Total power output is 409 horsepower, and with standard all-wheel drive, you have a combined fuel economy of 19 mpg.
Now the base price for the GV80 Coupe this year is $82,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, of course, we can't wait to take it out for a spin to show you the performance of this powertrain, as well as get things like our sound level reading. But first, we need to go ahead and shut up the hood so we can take a look at this new Prestige Black on the outside. Now, we have got to start this review out by talking about the exterior design, because that's really where we're seeing some big changes for the 2026 model year. Now, of course, this was already a beautiful SUV. They're not changing the overall design too much this year, but they have this black model, which is going to black everything out, and not just the grille up here in the front, it's actually throughout the entire vehicle, and we look forward to showing you all of the elements later on. Now, for the Coupe, we have the, of course, signature Genesis crest grille. For the black model, we have a darkened Genesis logo, which I think looks particularly nice against the white paint color, and then all of your lower fascia is also going to have some aggressive black elements. Of course, when it comes to lighting, you're additionally going to have very premium LED headlights. We had these updated micro lens LEDs last year to the GV80 lineup. They're very bright at nighttime, and of course you have your daytime running light and turn signal indicator going through there. Now, moving to your wheels, we have some very large and very attractive wheels for the GV80 Coupe. You start at 20-inch alloys, then you move up to the 22-inch alloys, and then this Prestige Black gets you the fully blacked out 22s. I think these look absolutely fantastic. Also, this black model is going to get you the floating center cap, so your Genesis logo is always going to be pointed up. Now, before we get too far along in this video, I do want to mention that the GV80 Coupe is pretty much fully loaded straight from the start. There's a couple different trim levels, and you end in this fully loaded black model. And as far as colors you can get the black, you can get white or black. It's very simple. So you can get the contrast look like this one or a fully blacked out example. Now, with your mirrors, in typical GV80 fashion, you have fully loaded features as standard, auto dimming on both the driver and passenger side, power folding, heating, and blind spot monitoring. Overall vehicle length comes in at 195.5 inches, which is about an inch larger than the SUV GV80. And then as far as design touches, we have the blacked out window surrounds as expected. We also have the black accent on the top of the door handle in replacement of the chrome. And then let's go ahead and walk around to the rear of the GV80 Coupe. This is really the angle that this vehicle looks the most different from the SUV version. You have a very aggressive and sporty design, but also it still looks quite elegant at the same time. Now, as far as individual design touches, we have kind of a built-in spoiler up here at the top. We do not have a rear window wiper, so that's something to keep in mind. And then you almost have a little bit of a ducktail spoiler right here. Now, as far as the branding itself, all of that is going to be blacked out. You're not going to see any traditional chrome on this Prestige Black model. And then as far as your taillights, full LED as standard equipment. So you have your LED brake light, your turn signal, and your LED reverse light. As we drop down to the lower fascia, very aggressive for the GV80 Coupe. We actually have quad exhaust outlets because this is the supercharged model, and you can tow quite a lot. You can see that down below. As expected for a flagship level SUV, you have every single active safety feature as standard equipment on this model. That will even include things like adaptive cruise control with Highway Drive Assist 2.0. Now, another 2026 change is that store green has been eliminated this year, so if you want that color, you might want to buy a 2025. But guys, there are a lot of really cool interior elements that we need to talk about that's new for this Prestige Black model. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we have reviewed over 2,000 vehicles at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from humble to high-end, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars.
Now let's go ahead and hop on inside the cabin, but first let's look at our key. This is going to be your newest Genesis key fob design. You have your buttons here on the side, on both sides actually, and you also have standard remote smart parking and remote start, as well as smart entry. Standard is going to be the name of the game for this GV80 Coupe since it is built off of the Prestige. All models really have the same features. It's just going to change the finishes as far as what you get in the cabin. So you just have a sensor behind the door handle, and go ahead and take a look at this new Prestige Black's cabin. Now there are really a ton of different things to talk about for this model. Genesis did not go halfway when it came to developing this, but let's start with the seats. All models come standard with Nappa leather, and on this Prestige Black Edition, surprise, surprise, you get black leather. So you have a special quilting design for this Prestige Black. It's really a beautiful feeling seat, and you have tons of adjustment as well. You have 16 ways of adjustment, which includes a power thigh extension, as well as bolster control, and your controls are also blacked out as well. The driver also has standard ergo motion massage. You also have memory controls up here on the door panel, also blacked out, and let's go ahead and hop on inside. Now as I close the door, you'll see that you do have standard soft closing as well. And before I talk about all of the interior materials and details, I went ahead and started up the car so Mason and I don't roast, because there is a lot to talk about in this cabin, starting with our 2026 changes as well. So the digital key system, which is standard, has been upgraded to include the rear door lock and unlock as well. So now you have some extra usability with that. And if you choose something that is not this Black Edition and get the beige and green interior, that will now have orange seat belts as well as stitching throughout the cabin. I know that's a hit or miss color feature depending on who you ask. But back to this Black Edition, let's talk about all of your materials in here, because Genesis has really upped the game when it comes to making a Black Edition. They did not make this a half-hearted effort. So starting here over on the door trim, you're gonna have black leather detail with some contrast stitching, some blacked out chrome details, more black leatherette. You have an exclusive dark ash open pore wood trim on all of your Black Edition models, as well as more black leatherette here up at the top. Runs all throughout the dashboard, more of this beautiful wood trim. You have darked out vent bezels all around here, and you do have a nice and well put together cabin as well. And as you can see, everything in here is blacked out. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that now so I don't say it 10 times throughout the interior. Everything gets blacked out, including your shifter and all of your steering wheel elements, even up here in the roof. But let's go ahead and talk about the rest of the technology features. So what we have been introduced to with this newest rendition of Genesis products is this beautiful looking 27-inch OLED display. So this includes both the gauge cluster as well as your infotainment display. And as you can see, it is one singular piece, and even the technology and the software has been modified to be blacked out, for this Black Edition model. So you have a ton of customizability here within the gauge cluster. If I find the right details, there you go. You can do things like put the map in there and change up the design. It's a really phenomenal display. We've lived with this multiple times. You also get things like your blind spot view camera, and up at the top you also have a very detailed and advanced head-up display. Moving back to the steering wheel, you have a nice flat bottom design, more dark elements on the steering wheel, and you do have standard heating as well. Genesis also adds rain sensing wipers, as well as a leather airbag cover and power tilt and telescoping. But even though this is a coupe SUV, Genesis does not skimp out on interior storage. So when I open up the center console, you will see our signature donuts inside to do our donut volume test. Inside we do have a full dozen donuts, which is really good compared to not only other coupe SUVs, but really a lot of other luxury SUVs in this segment. It is good and spacious. Up in front, you do have some cup holders as well as another little cubby back here with your standard wireless phone charging pad and some USBs. Now that storage is courtesy of your Genesis electronic shifter. It's a rotary style, so you just turn over to the right for drive, turn back to the left for reverse, and in reverse you do have a standard 360 camera that includes things like the fan favorite 3D spin around view. To put it in park, you just press the P in the center of the shifter. You have your auto hold as well as electronic parking brake as standard, and a fingerprint scanner for identity authentication. Also want to pay attention to the drive mode selector. New for 2026 is a new terrain mode, so when you press that, it'll allow you to go in and customize some of the driving conditions that you may encounter while going off-road. Also in this area, you also have your infotainment selector. You can go through and do some screen controls right there, or you can just use the touchscreen itself. Let's go ahead and talk about the climate controls though. You do have a standard 3-zone automatic on all models. It's located up in this little touch sensitive pad, but you do have some physical controls for your main features as well. Standard heated and ventilated seats on all models, and you also have a fragrance system which you can change out the cartridges for in case you have an unpleasant smell in the cabin you need to get rid of. There's even some more shortcuts here for your infotainment display, as well as a volume knob for your 18-speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system. Let's go ahead and give that a sample. Overall, this is a really fantastic sound system. We've lived with it for a week in a GV80 Coupe that we lived with earlier on this year. Really great quality, no complaints whatsoever. And you do also have the blacked out speaker grills as well. But let's go ahead and talk about the rest of your 27-inch display, which includes your main infotainment. On the screen right now, you can see we have our standard wireless CarPlay and Android Auto pulled up. But when I go back into the Genesis infotainment, you have your newest Genesis UX. It looks really fantastic, has things like built-in navigation, and everything works really smooth and has fantastic quality because of this OLED screen. Now moving up top, you do have a standard auto-dimming mirror with the camera ability that you can toggle on and off. You have your beautiful suede headliner, which I love the feel whenever we live with the Genesis product. And you do also have a standard panoramic sunroof. The sunshade slides back really quickly, and it does open up, which is becoming more of a rare feature nowadays.
And let's talk about the rear seat area of the GV80 Coupe. So when it comes to this, you are going to have a good amount of space. Even despite this being a coupe SUV that does sacrifice some of your practicality, it's still very practical overall. So what are we looking at when it comes to legroom figures? Well, we're sitting at about 39 inches of legroom and about 38 inches of headroom. That does mean that we're down about an inch when it comes to the headroom over the GV80 Coupe, the GV80 SUV model. So keep that in mind. But overall, for someone who's normal size like myself, I'm 5'9" for reference, there is still plenty of headroom. And of course, I brought along the official Car Confections ruler that will allow us to see our knee room. And we're looking at a little over 8 inches of knee room, so you're going to be plenty satisfied in that regard. My feet can also slide up underneath of the seat. Now, speaking of these seats, you may notice a really nice standard feature on every GV80 Coupe is a fully power-adjusting second-row seat. So that means you can power recline. You can also tilt up the seat cushion to add some extra thigh support. Really comfortable seats back here. We also have a fold-down center armrest. This is all blacked out as well, and then we have storage inside with felt lining. In the center area, we have our own climate vents. We additionally have our own climate controls for our third zone of climate. Heated and ventilated seats are also standard equipment on the GV80 Coupe, so no matter which model you get, you'll have that. And we have 2 USB-C ports and a household-style outlet. Over on the door trim is where you will find a 2026 change. So one of the weird things is that it didn't have rear window sunshades. Now, for 2026, they have added the manual rear window sunshade standard on all versions. The door trim itself is beautifully crafted, lots of the leather, open pore wood. There's also a bit of door storage down below. It's a little bit awkward in its overall shaping, so it doesn't really want to fit bottles like that in. You can kind of ram it in, but it's not as usable as you might think. And let's see how much stuff you can bring along with you. Of course, you have a standard hands-free power tailgate. And let's talk about the cargo capacity. So what we're sitting at is still very practical numbers. It's not as practical as the SUV. I'll get to that in just a second. But we're sitting at 30 cubic feet behind the second row of seats. You can also, easily power fold the second row just by pressing that button right there, and that will go ahead and get those out of the way. That's going to reveal your maximum of 62 cubic feet. Now, how does that compare to the GV80 SUV, you may ask? Well, the GV80 SUV has a maximum capacity of 84 cubic feet, so about 22 cubic feet less space for this model. Speaking of, if you want to cross-shop this with any mid-size luxury two-row, we have looked at all the options on our website at carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. We've gone through and ranked them in 10 categories that matter most to the luxury mid-size SUV shopper. Things like cargo capacity, interior luxury, powertrain choices, safety, as well as value. It's all detailed there for you on our website, so if you want to make an informed buying decision, definitely go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. Now, let's get our cargo length, width, and height figures in the GV80 Coupe. So from behind my own 5'9" driving position, we are sitting at really good cargo length of 80 inches. That's not really affected much at all for the Coupe version versus the SUV. Overall length behind the second row, 43 inches. Overall opening is actually going to be 41 inches. Then the height. So this is where it gets affected. 27 inches is your maximum height, and keep in mind that way down here towards the end of the cargo area, you're going to be sitting at really only about a foot of height. So that's where you really sacrifice your practicality. The load-in height is sitting at 32 inches. Underneath the floor, there is not a spare tire, but you do have a tire mobility kit underneath of here. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel in the Genesis GV80 Coupe. In this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a lot, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting things like our sound level reading. But first, we need to go ahead and start with a hard acceleration. All right.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so that was a quick acceleration up to 60 miles per hour in the Genesis GV80 Coupe. Well, as you could tell from that acceleration, even if you're hard on the throttle, this vehicle never feels unrefined. Certainly a very refined acceleration there. Now, we have the up-level powertrain option on the GV80 Coupe. That is the E-Supercharge model. That's standard here on the Prestige Black version. You have 409 horsepower, 405 pound-feet of torque, courtesy of a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6 with that E-Supercharge and mild hybrid setup. Incredibly smooth and refined. It's a little bit more powerful than the base engine option.
Yeah, it's going to be up from the 375 horsepower that you get on only the base model, so really it's almost exclusively that E-Supercharger model, unless you go for the base end, where you just get slightly less power, a little less refinement overall.
And one of the things that the mild hybrid E-Supercharge model does really well is power a more advanced auto start-stop. It is very smooth in this model, smoother than the traditional 3.5-liter V6 that we've experienced in a lot of other Genesis products. I'm just kind of accelerating there a little bit more gingerly. Let's talk about the transmission. So all models have an 8-speed automatic transmission. We found this to be a perfect mate for this powertrain setup. It's very smooth. It just blends right into the background, and it's eager to shift down and get you the power if you need it. Power is also routed to the ground via standard all-wheel drive.
But now it's time to go ahead and get our signature sound level reading at 55 miles an hour. We do have the rear climate off and the front climate at fan speed 1. Very nice. We're sitting at 52.9 decibels in this top-end GV80 Coupe, and I don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to all of its rivals. I'll go to carconfections.com/sound level readings to find that out. And cheers to consistency, this GV80 Black Edition is in line with all of the other GV80 coupes we have tested, as well as the GV80 SUV models. It's definitely on the upper end of the segment and scores really well. I think you'll be perfectly happy with the sound deadening in this cabin.
Absolutely. This is a very quiet cabin, and also we need to talk about ride quality as well. So I think it's important to note for the GV80 Coupe that this, even though it is sportier looking than the GV80, is still a very luxury-oriented SUV. You will notice that as soon as you get behind the wheel. The ride quality is really fantastic on this model. Even though we have the 22s on the outside, really all but the largest road intrusions are completely isolated out. You'll see that kind of demonstrated there. Very nice ride. Standard adaptive dampers on this model, but no air suspension, so that is a little bit worse than the competition. I will say that the X6 and the GLE Coupe do have better ride quality, but that's not to say this is bad at all. This is very good ride. Okay, so I switched it into sport mode. That's going to firm up the suspension a little bit. The steering is definitely going to tighten up and become a little heavier, but I did that just to kind of demonstrate kind of going around that corner. There's still a bit of body roll present here, so I would also say that this is not quite as sporty as a BMW X6. That being said, I think it's a really good balance between comfort and sport.
Now, we have been talking about the e-Supercharger mild hybrid system that does come on your top two models, but does this affect the fuel economy? Well, it should, but it actually does not. New for 2026, the combined rating for the mild hybrid model has been reduced to match that of the base 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6. So both come in rated at 19 mpg now, and especially when you compare it to some of the competition, maybe a B58-equipped X6, it's really a little lackluster when it comes to those other models. We wish that Genesis would just add some overall refinement or maybe even a hybrid system to this model to really make it more economical when it comes to your overall fuel economy.
Yeah, and that is going to be today's airball. It is certainly not that these powertrains are bad. They're extremely refined and honestly very good powertrains overall. But the thing is that its competition is so efficient, so smooth. So when you start looking at the X6 and the GLE, I think you will notice and definitely pay more at the pump with this model.
Now, on the slam dunk side of things, we really want to slam dunk the overall 2026 changes, specifically this Black Edition. Honestly, we were genuinely surprised when we got into this car and started going through all the different details. They blacked out everything. Even things like the bezels on the rear cup holders that fold down. Like, that's just truly impressive. A lot of manufacturers will just go and slap a black badge on the hood and call it a day. Genesis didn't do that. They really followed through on this, and overall, we were super impressed with this packaging.
So let's talk pricing. So we start at $81,850 for the base model this year. The e-Supercharger model is $87,000, and this Prestige Black is $89,400 as a starting point. That does mean prices are going to rise around $1,400 for 2026 model year compared to last year. Now we have the 26 GV80 Coupe Black. We also have a few options and accessories on this model, plus $1,495 destination. We're sitting at $91,970, so just a hair under $92,000. As far as where this vehicle is made, it is assembled in Ulsan, Korea. Now, if you're looking to buy a GV80 Coupe or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that'll connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use while dealership negotiating. If you'd like to take advantage of that, as well as things like our monthly payment tool, you can find a link to that down below in the video description, as well as a pinned comment. But guys, buying a vehicle is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's discuss resale and reliability. First up, let's talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, we took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this GV80 Coupe's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 42.08% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 12.47%. It's worth noting those are lower than industry average. However, it is slightly above some of your German rivals such as BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Audi.
Now, we've also done the same for reliability by creating the Combined Reliability Index, which takes into account a variety of different automotive resources in the industry and creates them into a more holistic picture. In this regard, Genesis is rated about on par with overall industry average.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values, our reliability data, or our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new vehicle is a very big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. Now, when it comes to your warranty, you do have the best in the business when it comes to the luxury division warranty. 5-year, 60,000 miles for your basic, 10-year, 100,000 mile powertrain warranty. You do additionally get 3 years and 36,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. And guys, that wraps up one of the first in-depth reviews of the 2026 Genesis GV80 Coupe Prestige Black. If you enjoyed watching this video on this flagship Genesis SUV, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to be a part of our Car Confections family. We have a lot of fun on this channel, and I promise you won't want to miss out. If you're already part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.